Morning and welcome everyone to this important event. I will wait for my colleagues to, yes, thank you. So I hope that the slides are visible to everyone now, including online participants. Good morning, everyone, again. My name is Madalina Kramer. I'm Head of Stakeholder Relations and Buy-in at SDM. And I'm pleased to see so many faces around us, and also to see that this event raised interest also for the ATM, for the whole ATM stakeholders, as we are quite full house in the meeting room, and also we have persons connected. It's good? Sorry for this. So we are going to very briefly present to you some practicals. So if we can go to the next slide, please. I hope that now it's good for everyone and hearing without any issues. Can you confirm that also online is everything okay? Okay, thank you. So we are okay, and we can be heard also by the online connections. Good morning to the ones online, if we have not heard until now. We have a shiny day here in Brussels after a long period of rain, so let's take it as a very good sign for us, for our meeting today, and it means that a lot of SESAR deployment projects will be awarded and receive funding. We will go with some practicals for the online participants mostly, but also we have some for our live participants in the room. Please, for the ones that are connected online, for the most optimal user experience during the streamlined event, please use the Google Chrome, Firefox, or Safari to connect, because if you use another one, you may not be able to hear us and the entire event. Please bear in mind that the chat and the Q&A are moderated to ensure relevance for all the participants during the event, but in the same time, please be ensured that we will answer all the questions that are inserted in the chat during the event or raised live here in the room, and we will handle this afterwards as a package after the meeting. Please also, it is important information that it is not inserted into the slide. Please, when you insert a question into the chat, also mention the organization you are belonging to, in order for us and for our experts to be able to properly assess your answer. For any technical issues, please use the chat or email us on communication at sesardeploymentmanager.eu. Next slide, please. We also have some practicals for the live participants. Thank you, everyone, for you being able to travel to Brussels and join us live during this event. And if you have any questions during the dedicated Q&A slots, please use the microphone in front of you. And also, as indicated to the ones that are online, please mention your name, of course, and the organization you are belonging to, in order for us to be able to identify the organization. Also, to maximize your presence, it is important for you to know that our experts are also available during the breaks at the expert corner that we organized in the lobby, Europa lobby. So please approach them in order to obtain further details during the breaks and the lunch break, the coffee breaks and the lunch break. The event will be recorded and will be shared with all the participants in the coming days. Next slide, please. Now, just as we have a very packed agenda for today's event that we intend to finish at 16 sharp, I will just briefly lead you through the topics that we will present to you, will be presented to you by my colleagues, as I mentioned, until today, until 16 today, when we are planning to close the meeting. We will start, of course, with the welcoming notes from our Executive Director, Maria Grazia Lapiscopia, then continuing with an overall presentation for CEF2 program and the role of SESAR Deployment Manager. We will also have an overview of the SESAR Deployment Program 2022, making thus a lean connection to the core agenda item of today's meeting, namely the CEF2 2022 transport call and defined priorities. As you may notice, we have reserved quite an extensive slot for this agenda item, 2 hours and 15 minutes, but we are planning to have a 15 minutes coffee break whenever it will be convenient, depending on how discussions will flow. Then we will, of course, have a lunch break starting at 1, and we will resume at 14:15 with the performance-related aspects. Agenda will follow with another very important topic for you regarding the preparation of the proposal from the process that needs to be followed, structure, and overall proposed roadmap. We will also bring you to your attention the supporting tools from a communication perspective, and finally we will provide a high-level overview of the processes from CNAI evaluation to execution phase. I wish you everyone a good for us to have a good meeting, and I will now give the floor to Maria Grazia Episcopia, our Executive Director.
Many thanks, Madalina, and also good morning and welcome from my side for the ones that are here in the room, but also for the ones that are connected online. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have you here physically because after so many months of connection at distance, it's good to see your faces. And also because we offer, as Madalina already mentioned, the possibility to talk to our experts in the dedicated corners that are in the lobby. So welcome to the SDM workshop on CEF 2 call. Indeed, this is the first call, if we go to the next slide, that is managed by the SESAR deployment manager after that the European Commission awarded a new consortium as the one in charge to cover the SDM function. And as all of you know for sure, this new consortium is composed by a strong partnership of airlines, airports, NSPs, and of course Eurocontrol network manager that is also playing the role of a consortium coordinator. All of us are working together as one to support you, to support stakeholders, to support you as investors, and to facilitate and speed up as far as feasible a synchronized deployment. So next slide, please. This is the first opportunity that we have after 5 years. If I'm not wrong, the last call was in 2017. And is an opportunity that we all need to exploit because we need to accelerate the investments that are necessary to comply with the Common Project 1 regulation, because the deadlines are becoming closer and closer. So the first one is in end of 2022. So I think really we need to use the money that is available and put on the table from the European Commission to support the investments of this important regulation. We have a useful tool that we can use, that is the SESAR deployment program. My team will fully update you on this later on. It has been recently approved also from the European Commission, so it is really the specification to guide your investments and also to help you with the preparation of the projects. Why Act Now is important. It's not only for the deadline, but also because the call text is very clear on this first movers advantage. That means that the priorities, the 6 priorities that are now in the call could not be proposed in the next years. So, or if they would be proposed, the funding could be less than 50%. What are the good news? The good news are also on the the administrative burden that you have as implementing partners, because there is a new administrative approach for CEF2 program. So the official platform that was TENTEC in the past has migrated to the e-grants one, and it should be simpler for the applicants to use this, let's say, more modern and friendly platform. So last but not least, don't forget that the SDM is here really to support you. We are here, all of us, to support you from the proposal preparation, and you will see what we have put on the table during the presentation, up to their submission, and of course, during the whole execution of the project if awarded. So the presentation later on will drill down. I think that is the most important part of our workshop on possible projects that you can submit against, of course, the priorities that are within the call. The idea is that, of course, our priority is to defragment the implementation and to facilitate a synchronized approach as far as possible. So you will see as a proposal a number of multi-stakeholder projects. Of course, these are just proposals. It is up to you then to decide if it is the right approach. If you have some further ideas, can complement the ones that we have put on the table. We did this to help, but also considering that the time that we have at our disposal is really short. So we really need to work together for the submission of the project. As you have seen, beyond the standard priority related to the regulation, there are also some other topics within the call that are related more to the CNS part. We have not decided yet, so we are still exploring what could be the best support that we can provide to all of you also on that side. So you will see that in the presentation we also drill down the needs on the CNS part, in particular on data link, PBN, and ADSB. So we will keep you posted on what could be our role to support you also in that framework. So I believe that's all from my side. There is a lot to put attention upon from your side. So the floor, have a good workshop, and the floor is back to Maddalena.
Thank you, Maria Grazia, for the welcoming us provided. And I will just pass the floor to my colleague Renaud for introducing to you the CEF2 program and the role of SESAR Deployment Manager. Please.
Good morning. Thanks, Maddalena. Good morning. I will quickly fly over these ones. It's just to set a bit the scene, to recap on the legal framework, and then for sure we'll go quickly into the real stuff. So next slide. CEF2 program. So that's one of the EU and the main one of the EU instrument for a smarter and more sustainable EU ecosystem. The word ecosystem is important, and you have seen it in the call. It's about all the EU transport mode. Here, it's a continuity. It's easy to say, CEF1 from CEF2. Some of the keywords you see on the slide were already on the CEF1. One emphasis that was probably not there is on environment and climate change. And that's really a key element that we will need all to pay attention to in the replies and in the project that we are going to put forward. Next one. ATM. ATM was fully part of CEF1, and we are still fully part of CEF2. We have here an important role to play. We can say that our contribution is even more important, because we all know that for climate change, the quicker you act, the greater the impact. And this is precisely what we intend to do with accelerating deployment. Next one. So this one recaps a bit the roles and responsibility of everybody. You see that the CESAR deployment manager is at the management level. This role, well, the CESAR deployment manager has two roles. One is policy role, so directly for the Commission, to support the Commission, and this is mainly the management level. The second one is to support you all, so to be the coordinator. And here we are all together at the implementation level, because our key element is to support you. And support is probably not the exact wording, because support gives the impression that we are reactive. No, we want to be proactive and really to support you proactively in putting forward the best proposal and implementing all the projects on time. Next one. So now we end up with a call. So as I mentioned before, CEF2 is about the transport ecosystem, and this call is about all transport mode. This is something which is a little bit new for us, because it means also that we are going to compete with all transport mode. We should not see this as a threat. For us, it's an opportunity, because we have very good high-quality project to put forward, so we should not be afraid about this sense of competition. Well, let's move to the next slide. Oh, sorry. As mentioned by Mayra Grazia, so here you see the entire topics that are going to be covered by the call. We have two that relate to deployment. One is the usual one on CP1, when SDM must be the coordinator. The other one relates to the other projects, so mainly CNS1, and here we can be the coordinator. We have discussed this with the Commission. The Commission is supporting SDM in this direction. Now, it is something we are still considering, and you will get more information about that later on. Next one, please. So this one, it's basically the main highlight from the call on the role of the SDM, the type of implementation projects, and some element on funding aspects. There is nothing fundamentally new here. You can see that there is a requirement, which is a soft requirement about the minimum amount of a project. It's a soft one, but it's stated expressly, so we better pay attention to it. There is one sentence which is important, and Maria Grazia reminded it, and I'm going to read it, that the subject under this topic might not be included in future calls with reduced funding. That's important, because that means that today we have a window of opportunity to accelerate deployment for the benefit of a smarter, and I'm repeating myself here, for a smarter and more sustainable transport ecosystem. It's an opportunity we should not miss, and we should make the best use of it. That was my end. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Renaud. And of course that we are opening the floor for questions. I understood that online we do not have specific questions, but we open the floor for the live questions, if there are any related to what Renaud stated. Until you decide if you have any questions, I will just want to refer to the fact that you see on the slides that it is a lot of text. Don't you worry, the presentation will be provided to you as a package with the Q&A answered in the coming days. So you will have the whole package provided to you most probably early next week. So no worries if you see that the whole text is not read during the meeting. So I see no questions, so we can go to the next agenda item that will be presented by my colleague Eric, the Head of Strategy and Technical Execution, providing to you the overview of the SESAR Deployment Program 2022. Please, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madalena. Good morning. Welcome also from my side. It's really good to see you all there, and also to have so many people online, which indicates this is a very important milestone, this kickoff event. Before going really into the deep and explaining a little bit more about the priorities of the CEF call and what we have prepared for you in order to support you, I would like to raise your attention and remind you again on a very important tool that Maria Grazia mentioned, which is the SESAR deployment program. This is really a common work program for operational stakeholders to implement CP1. So it gives really an answer to 4 important questions for me. So what to implement, how to implement, who should implement, and by when. So this is very important and should be also used by you when preparing the project proposals. With the new Common Project 1, which was replacing the Biler Common Project, there is also a complete update of the SESAR deployment program, which is the SESAR deployment program 2022, which was just recently approved by the European Commission in August 2022. So a little bit more than 1 month ago. So if you had no time to read that updated document yet, I really highly recommend it to go to our website, download it, and really get into this very important document. Next slide, please. Yes, again, the SESAR deployment program features really very important information like target dates, system requirements, specific milestones, and should really help you to get CP1 implemented. It also combines very important sections, for example, work program structure, Gantt charts, very detailed description of all the different families. Good, next slide. Yes, then going a little bit more into the deep, as I said. The regulation lays down a set of 6 ATM functionalities to be implemented across European ATM network up to 2027. These CP1 ATM functionalities are again divided into 20 sub ATM functionalities, which are integral parts of these 6 ATM functionalities. And then again, each sub ATM functionalities can be composed of 1 or more families, which this is very important because we will describe afterwards into more details what these families are, and also give an overview of the prioritized families which are also identified in that call. So the priorities for CP1 as identified in this CEF2 call are for ATM functionality 1, AIM and demand integration. So to have increased predictability and throughput through a better flow of arrival and departures. This is also ATM functionality 2, what you can also here see on the slide, which is the extended airport operations plan. So to enhance airport performances and improving the predictability of operations. Also to optimize the use of runways, taxiways, and aprons, reducing unnecessary fuel consumption. The ATM functionality 3 is hence free route airspace operations. So expand the free route airspace beyond national borders. Also allowing the airspace users to fly shorter flight paths, cutting fuel consumptions and CO2 emissions. Next one is ATM functionality 4, the initial AOP, NOP information sharing and the AOP, NOP integration. So connecting the network operations plan and the airport operations plan from the major hubs and increasing the capacity and the effectiveness of the network. And finally, AF5. So at ATM functionality 5, aeronautical information and flight information exchange. So to build a secure, safe and efficient infrastructure for the data exchange. And also pushing forward the digitalization of air traffic management. So out of these 6 ATM functionalities, which I was explaining before, which are very much into detail described by the SESAR deployment program 2022, 5 out of these 6 have been defined in that call as priorities. So next slide, please. And out of these 5 priority ATM functionalities I was just explaining, there are 7 priority families addressed in that call, which we will bring into in the next session into the detail. As already explained by Arnaud, don't be shocked by all the text, because this is just for you. We will fly over, we will explain you what we mean with that, and afterwards you will get all the slides, all the details, which will help you also to go in your organization through all the details and to prepare your projects. So please don't be afraid of all the text you will see on the slide. But this is just for you, as also to support you. So what we have done in the SESAR Deployment Manager, again, to support you, is to bring together or to propose projects in order to help you. As already explained by Maria Grazia, this is just a proposal by the SESAR Deployment Manager. And it's not an obligation for any stakeholder to participate in these projects. And of course, you're more than welcome to come with additional ideas, with additional projects also. But this is just to help you, to give you a hint, to give you an idea, which might help you to set up the projects, and which might help you to say, yeah, this is a good idea, let's join that one, in order to get CP1 implemented. So what have we done? We looked at the existing plans by stakeholders. Of course, we, from SESAR Deployment Manager, we have a very good overview of the status of the implementation. The deployment approach, of course, as set in the deployment program, as I just explained before. The state of the implementation and the expected benefit for the network operations. So we put all these together and have defined, as I said, this project proposal, which will be explained just by my colleagues afterwards. And we will do it in that way that my colleague Christian Bradea will introduce also family by family, and our technical experts will introduce you these project proposals. And also what is important for the people here in the room is also the experts will be available in the break and throughout the whole event for you. So please use that opportunity to come to our experts, but of course also to us and ask questions. So let's use this opportunity really to clarify a lot of questions, so that we can really get started right now and today. You will see it later on from the timeline that we have a very tight roadmap due to the deadline of the call. So really, let's get started, and let's be successful as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Before I will give the floor to Christian, I have been informed that we have a question in the chat online from Airbus that we prefer to take it now, as it is related to the CEF call and not to the content. So we take it now. Please, if we can see it on the screen for everyone to read it. If not, I will read it. So it's a question from Airbus. Thierry asked us if there will be another set of calls next year. And here Maria Grazia will clarify this. Thank you.
So yes, meaning yes, this is what we have been told, that there will be another call at the same time next year. Now it falls on the European Commission and CNIA to make it happen. So, but the planning is yes, there will be another call. And in 2024, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Reno. Now Christian will come back to the detailed projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madalena. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Pradera. I'm the ATM Modernization Planning Coordinator working for Edith Locke in the Strategy and Technical Execution Unit. And I'm going to start introducing you on the technical projects that, as Eric explained a minute ago, are just proposals based on the priorities identified in the call throughout the different ATM functionalities of the regulation. So I will make a very short introduction on each of the ATM functionalities and families of projects that are identified there in the call, and then our SDM experts for AF1, AF2, AF3, etc. will give you more details, will guide you through what should be submitted as an implementation project, and we'll try also to answer any potential questions or doubts that you may have. I would like to encourage you, operational stakeholders, to really submit projects, to be involved in these potential projects, and even come with new proposals. We are completely open, and our main role in the end is to guide you technically on the submission of these projects. Let's start with the first family of projects in AF1, which is the AIM-DIMAN integration, for which the target deadline in the regulation is December 2027. And it is a new sub-ATM functionality included in the CP1 regulation. It was not in the old PCP. So we know that the stakeholders, the airports and the ANSPs, have to plan the implementation to fulfill the requirements by 2027. And this is why we will encourage you to submit a multi-stakeholder project under this family. The integration of the AIM-DIMAN, as its name indicates, is just about coupling the arrival manager tool in the TMAs together with the departure manager tool at the airports, to make the flows more efficient and also to optimize the utilization on the runways. The departure manager is simply optimizing the departure flows, and on the contrary, the arrival manager tool is optimizing the arrival flows, and they have to be somehow synchronized and aligned in order to gain synergies and optimize the use of the runways. More details are going to be provided by my colleague Mukul Bhatnagar, our AF1 expert, with regards to this potential project that we are proposing to achieve the requirements of the regulation. And after his presentation, there will be a short slot for Q&A session. Please, Mukul.
Thank you, Christian. Next slide, please. Yeah, as Christian has updated that presently we have the extended AIM and the DIMAN, which is already going really well, supposed to be implemented by the end of 2024. And by implementation of AIM and DIMAN, the arrival flow as well as the departure flow is being synchronized from first come, first serve method to optimum planning and the best serve method. The only gap which remains open in between is the runway, where we need this integration of AIM and DIMAN flow to get the best optimum output for the user-friendly, in a user-friendly manner of the runway uses. Next slide, please. As per the CP1, 5 airports are being mandated to implement the integration of AIM and DIMAN. These are Berlin, Brandenburg, Düsseldorf, Milan, Malpensa, Paris, Charles de Gaulle, and Nice. And I just want to tell you that these 5 airports are one of the busiest one in the Europe. Like Berlin has just taken over from Düsseldorf as the 3rd busiest in Germany. Düsseldorf is the 4th busiest. Milan is 2nd busiest in Italy. Paris is the busiest in Europe. And Nice is the 2nd busiest in France. And ANSPs involved in this are the DFS, ENAV, and DSNA. Next slide, please. The aim for this proposal is that we expect the project which should be aligned in the proposed format, where there should be at least these minimum basic 3 tasks. That is the coupling of AMAN and DMAN systems, and upgrade system to incorporate AMAN DMAN information in both the ground tower scenarios as well as in the approach and the center scenarios. Task 2 is the system and procedure upgradation or the optimization, which requires establishment of bilateral agreements between airport operators and the ANSPs as the need be. Also to upgrade the controller working position in both tower and the en route sectors to integrate the AMAN DMAN information. And the last task is training and the actual operational use. Next slide, please. In this slide, we are just showing that there are benefits because there were a number of live tests as well as the fast time simulation in which it has been proved that the implementation of AMAN DMAN integration will certainly decrease the texting time almost by 33 to 38%. And it also improved the punctuality or the predictability by 58 to 62%. So once implemented fully by 2030, we'll be having the benefits as you can see below the chart, the cost efficiency to the tune of 17 million and flight minutes as well, almost like 820 hours, and carbon dioxide and CO2 and NOx as well as the fuel savings have been shown there. This is based on the cost benefit performance analysis by 2021. With this, we complete the AF1 1.2.1 AMAN DMAN integration part, and I believe the stakeholders from Düsseldorf Airport and DFS, DSNA, ENF, and other stakeholders are available. So we'll certainly welcome them in case they have any question during the question hours or during the coffee break. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Mukul. Are there any questions on this particular potential project to integrate the AMAN DMAN in those 5 airports?
Christian, if there is no question for this specific AF, we have again online a question from Thierry. Is the next one. This was from Airbus again, but it is related indeed to AF6. That's why it is also good for you to take it now, since AF6 is not part of this CEF2 call, but it is a relevant question. We see if it is not displaying. I will again read. No, so here you see it. Okay, thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Thierry, for your question. I understand your concern. The thing is that we haven't passed the industrialization target date yet in AF6. That is set by next year. And I believe that it could be difficult to award a project now by CNEA and the European Commission, because the awarding decision will take place beginning of next year, 2023, when the industrialization target date will not have been passed yet. It will be very difficult for them to award an implementation project, knowing that there is this maturity gate. So the likelihood of having a project awarded in this call for AF6, I see it very low. We cannot prevent stakeholders submitting projects to SDM. Of course, we will assess them and give our feedback, but I believe that there are very low chances of getting an implementation project in this call. Next year, the situation may be significantly different, because next year, if there is a call confirmed, as Renaud explained, It will be launched normally in autumn 2023, and the awarding decision will take place in 2024, when normally we will have passed already the maturity gate in December 2023. So I see much higher chances of awarding projects next year on AF6 implementation projects because of this timing issue we have with industrialization target date, whilst this year I see it really difficult. We could always check it with CNEA and with the Commission, but through informal meetings that we have had, especially when talking about the industrialization target date, it was always crystal clear that until that maturity gate is not passed, there will be no funding, no public money spent on implementation projects. I hope this clarifies, Thierry. Any other questions on AF1? Okay, since the call is pointing that early movers are favored, would it be possible for other airports to participate? It's a very good question. In principle, they are not impacted by the regulation. They are not included in the SESAR deployment program neither. Therefore, I believe that they wouldn't be eligible to receive funds, but this is something that we could maybe double check with the Commission. They could be part of the project. I believe that this shouldn't be an issue, but I guess that not eligible to receive funds from the call. We can take it back home and discuss it with the Commission and with CNEA, whether this could be possible. I know that the Commission wanted also to foster additional projects and additional airports, maybe in future common projects under AF1 for the aim and demand integration. But I'm afraid I cannot give you a precise answer now whether the additional airports would be eligible or not. My guess is that not in this call, but we can double check it. I don't know if anyone else wants to complement, or we take it home and try to check it with the Commission.
Thanks for the question. Yes, we will get back to you with a written answer on this one next week when we come back with the Q&A. Thanks for the question.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions? One there, yes, please.
Yes, Koopmans Anneli Wieselinge. I think it's a related question. If you're out of the scope, but you're still interested in the benefits, predictability aspects and benefits, is that something that is possible to join this joint or not?
To join the project, yes.
With the eligible costs?
No, this is what I don't think it is possible, but we are going to confirm it.
Okay, if no further questions live or online, we go back to the slides, please.
I think there is one more question. No, there are not. Okay, so then let's move to the next ATM functionality. Actually, I'm going to present here two ATM functionalities and two families together at the same time because they are very much linked, as you will see, AF2 and AF4. In this case, and in this call, the priorities are given to the extended airport operations plan implementation and its integration with the network operations plan. Eric already mentioned it before in his brief presentation regarding the ATM functionalities. So we have families under AF2 and families under AF4. For the extended AOP, the target date set forth in the regulation is December 2027, whilst for the AF4 families, the implementation target dates are 2023 for the initial AOP and OP integration and 2027 for the full AOP and OP integration, but I will come to the AF4 families later. Let's start with the extended AOP, Airport Operations Plan, which is mandated in several airports in Europe by 2027. The Airport Operations Plan is a single, common and collaboratively agreed rolling plan used by all the involved airport stakeholders to provide common awareness situational awareness based on all the information exchanged by the involved stakeholders, which help the stakeholders taking the right decisions to optimize the processes and the flows and the capacity at the airport. This is the definition given for the airport operations plan. It in the end connects all the ground stakeholders, as you can see there in this picture, the ANSPs, the ground handlers, the airport operators, med service providers, network manager, etc., to exchange information, to have all of them the same data at the same time, and as I said, to allow them taking the right decisions. It is really important to synchronize, therefore, all these stakeholders through an implementation project to ensure that in the end, the information will flow. And the extended AOP, on top of all these data exchanges, which in the end allow taking the decisions through a collaborative decision-making process, also includes additional elements like performance monitoring, the landside operations, and post-operations analysis, which are on top of the initial AOP. So this has to be deployed by the airport operators together with the ground stakeholders, including the ANSPs. And in the next family, if we move to the next slide, we have the integration of the airport operations plan with the network operations plan to connect both plans and to enhance the awareness from the network perspective, again, with the same purpose, to allow taking from the network perspective in this case, with the situational awareness of all the airports that are connected, to be able to take the best decisions and to manage properly the flows, etc. And this means that all the arrival planning information, departure information, all the performance monitoring aspects, the landside aspects, etc., have to be integrated into the NOP. This will enhance the capacity of the overall network. And as I said here, there are two families in AF4 which have been prioritized in this call. The initial AOP and OP integration for the initial data sharing. This deadline is 2023, but more important, the extended AOP integration with the NOP by 2027. So there is a very good chance to submit a combined project between AF2 and AF4 families that could go up to 2027. But as you will see in the proposed project that Tim is going to explain now well, the implementation date for the project is even shorter and is not covering all the aspects of the extended AOP, neither the integration, but it is a very good initial step to implement the AOP and the integration with the NOP in all those airports that are mandated in the regulation. So with this, now I will give the floor to my colleague, Tim Robinson, our AF2 expert, who will give you through the details of the proposed project. And then again, we will be open to answer questions. Thank you, please, Tim.
Hello, everybody. Oh, yes, the camera's looking at me. That's good. As Christian says, thank you. Good explanation. And I'm an AF2 expert here. But of course, I will also mention AF4. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? So Christian's explained, and here's a little recap really about what the AOP is and how it helps. So as mentioned by colleagues earlier, it's all to do with efficiency, reducing delay. And one of the best ways to do that is to share the information not only within the airport, but share it out to the network as well. And that helps with the climate agenda. And of course, it helps with passenger journeys as well, which we're all very interested in when we travel around. So this is specifically about how do we do that project? How do we hit that target and deliver this? So it's particularly about extended AOP. That's what's in the call. But the proposal that we've suggested is how it should be done is to break it down into a smaller piece initially. It's a joint project between the airport operators and their stakeholders. And of course, if you're going to share the data with the network manager, you have to send it somewhere. So the network manager is involved as well. And this all helps with the synchronization and the coordination as we introduce these new digital data sharing. Now, we're fortunate in that within the airports, we we speak to the airports who are involved in CP1, and in fact with the previous PCP as well. We speak to them every week, so we've got constant contact with them, and that really helps, and that's helped us to come up with this proposal. So let's have a look at that now and look at who's involved, who we'd like to be involved, and if we go to the next slide, we'll have a look at that. Okay, so I've only got 3 slides. This is the second one. And here we're going to have a look at, well, who's involved. So in CP1, 10 new airports were introduced, and you see them all on this slide in different boxes. Well, one's not in a box, but I'll explain that in a minute. So as you see from the title, we're looking at the extended AOP, but we're breaking it into a smaller project, and the next slide talks about that. We'll stay on this slide for now. Prague Airport would act as the lead in this project for putting the proposal together. They won't be on their own. The SDM's there to help and to guide, and you'll see more in the presentation as you go through about that. Not in my presentation, later on this afternoon, I think. Why are Helsinki out there in the cold on their own? It's because they've already made great progress on this project, and they've done the initial AOP and OP and working towards extended already. So it doesn't make sense for them to be in this call. For the other airports that you see in the pending airport board approval box, so we want all these airports to come into this this proposal, and of course they need approval from their boards. They're all at different levels of implementation already, but we've proposing an idea that would allow all the airports, the new airports, to come together and make some progress, and I'll explain that on the next slide. As I said, with AF4, and as Christian explained, this data is going to the network manager, so you get a benefit of efficiency within the airport on this project of sharing the data, but by sharing it out to the network manager, you then get network benefits, and of course, as all the SESAR program comes online, you get more benefits. But our project particularly is looking at a shorter time frame. We're breaking it down, and we'll be looking at shorter. I'll explain that in the next slide. We'd also like to open this this call and this particular project to the ANSPs as well. As we're explaining, you know, the SESAR deployment program is the key document, and you'll see in there the ANSP also has pretty much identical deployment milestones on this to the airports as well. So that's open to participate as well. We haven't had time to engage on that yet. And the map there is showing you which countries are involved in this. So let's go to the next slide now and see what the proposal is. Now, this is just the potential of a proposed project. So it will, it's a flavor of what could be done. There's different work packages, as I said, to suit different airports. The first work package is our prerequisite actions, and I think this is something that could start now, and in many ways does need to start now, so that we can so that the proposal can be written. So we encourage the airport operators to engage with the ANSPs. That's a key thing, because everybody's involved in this. It's acting as one. Also, the member state needs to be aware of what's going on. An important, you know, the SESAR deployment manager, SESAR deployment program comes with guidance material. In fact, you've probably recently been consulted on some of the supporting material. And there's an important document which was produced with ACI Europe, which looks at what the initial AOP content would be, and it also references all the other guidance material as well. So the project is broken down into doing an initial AOP for some of the airports, those that have maybe not got any of those elements at the moment, and that's be work package 1. as I say, everything that you see and deployment milestone 1 within the initial AOP. So we're just looking at the first deployment milestone, which is basically getting the data ready. And that's because we're anticipating this project would go to the end of 2024. So that's the proposal with this. As I say, it's a flavour of what could be done. For the other airports within the group that maybe are more advanced, the suggestion is that they could do work towards extended AOP and start looking at that, which, if you remember, that extends some of the data into the landside operation and starts preparing that. So again, it's deployment milestone 1 from the SESAR deployment program for the extended AOP. Looking at the prerequisite actions again, for these both sets of airports that are doing this project, they would also speak to their finance department to get them engaged. There's also an MOU between the different stakeholders at the airport, so everybody has to collaborate in order to get that data, whether it's the airside data or the landside data, the flight trajectory data. They all need to come together and support that. It's an extension of ACDM, and again, you'll see that in the SESAR deployment program. And our first step, the documentation that describes what that data is, because there's digitalization in this and an interface. The network manager is on board with this as well, and this is the AF4 part, and they have suggested deployment milestone 1 and deployment milestone 4 from the AF4 area of the initial AOP. That's quite a long sentence, but it matches what the airports are involved in. And our final work package is work package 4 is just to do with the call text, really, which says what it says there to make sure the infrastructure is signed off. So this is the flavour of what could be done. Of course, as colleagues have pointed out, once the airports get into writing these proposal, they may well change this, but this is a suggested sort of starting point, so we don't start with a blank page. Okay, thank you for your time, and we go now, I think, to Q&A.
Yeah, and I see Luke's hand, so please, Luke.
Yeah, thank you. Just reminding the context a little bit for the people who are not so into the details. This AF2 AOP is the only functionality or sub-functionality where the Commission added to the geographical scope a number of partners, so 10. So these partners are not on the same level as the 18 remaining in the scope. I have sometimes the impression the Commission forgets that, but it's very important to tell it again. That's also the reason why Tim has showed these 10 airports or 9 airports without Helsinki to be in a project this year. What I also want to say is we very much regret that, especially for this call, that there's no cohesion fund envelope, because this would have helped a lot the airports that are in the cohesion countries. Now it's a bit difficult. Very grateful to Martin and Prague for still taking the lead on the project. What is important also for the context is the 18 other airports and some more, and some ANSPs, they have a project that where they asked an extension to end of 2023 to comply to initial AOP. So it would be very strange that in the call 2022 they would submit a project till the end of 2027. But nevertheless, the 9 other airports should be able to kick off the work in AOP with a phase 1 that is funded. What is very important is within ACI, we are drafting a similar technical document as we did for initial AOP, but this time for AOP. So it's the detailed content based on the implementing regulation and the deployment plan. This one will be ready before the summer of 2023, so fully in line with a call 2023, where we would very very much suggest that also the SDM takes the position that you have two groups in AOP, and that the priority for the call cannot be limited to the call 2022, given the context of the implementing regulation. And last point, yes, definitely very much in favor to have a project where also AOP is linked to NOP. So there we have, there we are in contact with the people here of the airport unit of NM. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. I don't know if there are further questions in the room. If not, I have a room. If not, I have been informed that we have one online. It's one here in the room, please.
Thank you. This question is regarding an administrative situation. You have mentioned that the leader of the project will be Prague Airport. Prague Airport will be the coordinator, because at the end of this proposal has to be included into the portal of the European Commission. So who will be the coordinator? Will be the SDM or will be Prague Airport? This question is for all those projects coordinated by the SDM. Thank you.
Yeah, the planning is that Prague Airport is going to be the project leader, but the coordinator of all projects is going to be the SDM.
So the SDM will be the entity uploading the offer to the portal and receiving the money and distributing the money to the rest of the participants.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very sorry, but I think you have to distinct the project level and the program level. The lead partner on project level will be Prague Airport and not SDM.
Yeah, but I think that this is like in all the usual projects that we have managed in the past, right? There is a project leader who is coordinating the technical content, the partners, etc., on the day-to-day basis. That will be Prague. Now, for all this bureaucracy, administrative process, etc., SDM will coordinate the projects and will monitor the implementation through the LCIP, etc., as we do with all the other projects in the past calls. There is no difference in that sense with regards to this project. Neither with the others that we are proposing, by the way. Yeah? So the idea is always to have one project leader, can be an airport, can be an ANSP, can be an airline, can be Eurocontrol NM, and then the projects from the administrative perspective will be coordinated under the SDM umbrella. Any additional questions? Okay. Could you please explain again which airports are involved in AOP and AOP-NOP projects, if only the new ones introduced in CP1 or all the airports mentioned in the CP1 SDP are applicable of such families? Okay, let's go back to the slides where we have the geographical scope. I will explain it and then Tim, feel free to complement or look. So we have to distinguish between the applicability scope of the call, which are the priority families included in the SESAR deployment program, extended AOP, and there is where we have these airports plus additional airports that are not shown in this slide, and the project itself that is being proposed today. This is a proposed project, as Tim has explained, with 9 airports, if I'm not wrong, 7 airports, 9 airports. 9 airports in total, Prague being the leader of the project. But this is a proposal that has been, as far as I know, worked out already very well with these airports. But the project is open for ANSPs, as indicated there. And this doesn't mean that other airports who want to implement extended AOP are eligible to do so. I understand that this is possible. Maybe Tim and Luke, you can complement. But in principle, all those airports that are included in the family in the SESAR deployment program, AOP, are eligible in this call because the priority is the entire family and therefore all the projects are applicable under the regulation. Please feel free to complement. So in the end, the project is a proposal. We know that very likely these airports will be part of the project. We invite ANSPs to be part of the project, network manager also for the integration with the NOP, and if additional airports, which are under the remit of the CP1 regulation, want to implement the extended AOP, they are more than welcome. For the detailed list of airports, I suggest you have a look at the SESAR deployment program under this family, where we have the 18 plus these new entrants, or the regulation. In the CP1 regulation, you can also find the list of airports that are eligible for the extended AOP implementation. Okay, thank you, Madalena. So the question was about the new 10 airports. If only the new 10 airports are applicable, could we explain what is foreseen for other airports? So as I was trying to explain before, we need to distinguish between the airports that are mandated in the regulation, in the CP1, for the extended AOP, which deadline is 2027. And there we have, if I'm not wrong, 18 plus 10 airports, 18 that were already in the previous PCP, and they already had to implement AOP, and new 10 airports that have to implement the initial AOP and the extended AOP. The 18 airports that were in the PCP are progressing. They already submitted a project some years ago to implement AOP, and therefore they are more advanced than those new airports that are included in the regulation. The proposed project that TIM has presented is addressing those new 10 airports in the regulation that were not part of the old PCP, and therefore they were not advancing as much as the others. And the idea is to catch up and to start implementing AOP, because they are not at the same level as the other 18 airports. But this is just a proposed project. Also, as I was explaining, the idea is that in the end, by 2027, all the 28 airports, 18 plus 10, will have to implement the extended AOP. The same, all of them with the same system requirements and the operational aspects. By 2027, all of them must be compliant with the regulation. This is what is expected by 2027 in the regulation. How to reach to that point? Through different CEF calls, and throughout these years, the airports can organize different projects. Today, we are proposing this project with these 9 airports, the new 9 out of these 10, but there could be other projects, and in future calls, there can be also additional projects to fulfill, in the end, the extended AOP scope. Because as Tim explained before, this project is not addressing the entire scope of the extended AOP. It's an initial phase. And I hope that this clarifies now also for our colleagues who are online.
Thank you, Christian. If there are no further questions, either online or live, we can go on AF3 as it was planned before. Thank you, Christian. Okay, so now back to the prioritized families and the projects that are in the call. We are going to address Family 322 of the SESAR deployment program, Enhanced Free Route Airspace Operations, which is building on the initial free route family. The regulation is mandating to implement this enhanced free route airspace operations by December 2025. And basically, it is requiring three new elements on top of the initial free route that has been widely implemented already in Europe by most of the ANSPs. And these 3 new elements, my colleague Eva will give you more details in a way, but the idea is that the final free route implementation will get rid of the structural limitations in terms of time, and also in terms of lateral and vertical limitations, and minimize the number of RADs, the route availability document, to ensure, in the end, the final goal of the free route is to have, in the entire European airspace, a single airspace free route without established routes to allow the airspace users flying their preferred route. That is the final goal, in the end, of free route airspace. Besides the structural limitations, including the time limitations,
that were allowed in the initial free route. The extended or enhanced free route by 2025 should also address the cross-border dimension between different member states. The regulation is mandating that at least one of the member states is connected in this free route airspace. If more member states are connected, better, but at least one to be compliant with the regulation. And then finally, the third element in this family is the connectivity with the TMAs that is allowed through different options as described in the SESAR deployment program, and as my colleague Eva will explain in a second. So if we go to the next slides, Eva Lopez, our AF3 expert, will guide you through the proposed projects. Here we have different projects, completely open. They are just proposals. Remember what Eric said before, based on our best knowledge. So all the stakeholders are encouraged to participate, but to modify the projects, to add new projects if needed, etc. Please, Eva, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Christian. Good morning to everyone. As Christian already introduced, this family addresses the activities regarding free route airspace. There are mainly three. The final implementations, erasing all of the limitations that were allowed during initial FRA implementation, especially the one in terms of timing and as well lateral and vertical. The second activity is the cross-border FRA implementation. Here, all states need to have cross-border, at least with one neighboring state. However, it is very important to remark that the maximum benefits will only be obtained when the cross-border FRA is implemented with all neighboring states. And finally, the TMA connectivity must be ensured, and for that there are several options where, for example, you could lower the FRA vertical limit to meet the upper vertical boundary of the TMA, also define the appropriate arrival and departure points, or establish FRA connecting routes, and so on. There are several options. These are one of the most common. And this is mainly the general context of this family. So in the next slide, we will see the proposals. And I remark this, they are only proposals. Please, next slide. We have four. We have developed this initiative, taking into consideration the activities that are planned in our NIP database until 2025. They are mainly four. The first one is the implementation of cross-border FRA in the Southwest FAF concerning Spain and Portugal. In the second place, we've thought of the implementation of cross-border FRA in BlueMed connecting to SEXIFRA. In third place, we have the inclusion of Czech Republic into the Baltic and Sea FRA. And finally, in order to comply with CP1, it would be the implementation of cross-border in France with any of the neighboring states. That could be Spain, Switzerland, or UK. Here you will see that Skyguide and NATS have been highlighted in orange, as they are not entitled to have funding from European Commission, but anyway, they can still participate actively in these projects. As I stated before, these are only proposals, so please feel free to contribute with any other group of interest that you might think it's worth. And here, for example, if in the fourth project, finally DSNA would suggest that the perfect partner would be an NAIRE, for example, it could be merged with the first proposal as well, making a joint project of NAP, NAIRE, and DSNA. So these projects should be conducted as multi-stakeholder projects, involving as well the military, the airspace users, and network manager. And it is very important to have everything synchronized and coordinated among all the implementing partners. The implementation of these projects will provide benefits, especially to airspace users in terms of reduction of time, fuel, and CO2 emissions. But anyway, to have the maximum benefit, as I said before, it needs to be implemented in whole neighboring states. So please, next slide. To achieve this, we have these expected project milestones, and They can be grouped in 5. First would be the operational aspects, where NSPs need to define the concept of operations, the procedures to follow, the airspace structure they want, and also try it in fast time simulations, and also update the publications accordingly, maybe discussing new letters of agreement, adapting the IEP publications, and so on. In second place, it's very important to take into consideration the technical aspects, where NSPs need to assure the connectivity between ATC systems. Also, they need to provide data for CFSPs, and very, very important to test any implementation with Network Manager, so they can encounter undesired situations before putting anything into operational implementation. And as any other project, there needs to be a safety assessment. It is very important to design a thoughtful training for the new concept, so controllers and any other actors that are involved can feel confident when the operations start to take place. And finally, the operational implementation. So to have an operational implementation successful, it is key to count with all the actors involved. And for this, it is very important, especially depending on the local environment, to have a close coordination with the military. In this case, SDM will coordinate the military involvement through EDA. So depending on how strong are the military areas in your airspace, please consider taking them into the proposals we have suggested. And that's all on my side. So if you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. So we open now the Q&A.
Yes, I see that we have in the room one question, please.
Yes. What do you mean by coordination for the military involvement will be through EDA?
This is a very good question. Thank you. In the SDM, all the coordination we have with the military authorities is done through EDA. This is our only official interface. So that's why we, as SDM, cannot contact directly the MODs in different countries. We need to go through EDA. The coordination is working very well. We have regular meetings with EDA. So this is what we need to follow from the SDM perspective. Now, when it comes to the project submission itself, of course, the different stakeholders, in this case, NAIRE, TSNA, NAV Portugal, etc., you are free to talk directly within your country with your military authorities. The fact that SDM has to respect the fact that our interface is ETA doesn't prevent the stakeholders to coordinate internally among yourself between the MODs and the civil ANSPs to submit a project. Does that clarify?
Not quite. Let's say that one of the military bodies, stakeholders, has a project to submit. How will they proceed to submit this project that complies with the subject, for example, cross-border FRA or something else?
So the project will be submitted to the SDM, and we in the SDM, with our technical experts, will review the project.
Directly, not through the civil part of the same country or through the EDA.
Normally, if we receive a military project, we will coordinate with EDA, and then we will organize normally a meeting with the partners who have submitted the project, the civil and the militaries.
I don't understand the difference between coordinating with the EDA part and the direct submission.
The direct submission comes from the implementing stakeholders. EDA is not an implementing stakeholder, so the submission will come from the MOD. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No questions online. If there are no questions in the room, we can go to the next one, please.
No more questions on AF3? Okay, so give me a second. I need to ask the AF5 experts to come now. Yeah, I see. Okay, so good to see you. All right, so next slide, then we are going to cover now the ATM functionality number 5. Remember that we have covered the number 4 already together with AF2. And here we have actually 2 different families prioritized in the call under AF5. The first one is the Aeronautical Information Exchange, Family 531, and the second one is 561, Flight Information Exchange, that I will explain in the next slide. In both cases, the implementation target date set forth in the regulation is December 2025. So all the SWIM services must be available by December 2025. Under each of these families, there are different services because SWIM in the end is a way to exchange information following certain protocols and standards. And it includes multiple services like airspace management, digital NOTAMs, flight information, aeronautical information, etc., etc. So in this first family, we have all the aeronautical information services. As you can see there, maybe it is a little bit small, but you will receive the slides anyway. You will have multiple services that are mandated by the regulation. The airspace management service that includes airspace structure, airspace availability, areas reservation. Then we have on the airport side the digital NOTAMs and aerodrome mapping. And finally, the aeronautical information feature. In the end, since this is all about exchanging information, there must be a service provider and a service consumer, the one sending the information and the one making use of it. To connect the provider and the consumer, the regulation is asking to implement these SWIM standards for the different families and services. And this is what, in this case, we are proposing through different projects to connect the flight information service providers with the flight information service consumers. I will explain also the next family of projects, which is about flight information, not about aeronautical information, in the next slide. Similarly to the previous one, there is always a service provider and a service consumer, and they have to be connected via SWIM. This family, flight information, is addressing the implementation of FFI's Release 1 services. So the pre-departure flight information, this is very important, is not about the execution of the flight, only the pre-departure flight information that has to be exchanged between network manager, the airlines, and the ANSPs, following a specific format, the FIXM standard, the flight information exchange model. And this is mandated in the regulation again by 2025. It is a new format to submit the flight plans, different from the 2012 ICAO format. And the scope of these projects is addressing, as I said, network manager, airspace users, and ANSPs. More details for the 2 families that I have just briefly introduced, Aeronautical Information Exchange and Flight Information Exchange, and their underpinning services, is going to be provided now by my colleague, Magnus Molbeck, but also by Pedro Sanchez, who are going to complement each other. So please, Magnus, floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm happy that we reached AF5, which will be the most interesting for everybody in the room, for sure. Let's take the next slide. So I think Pedro, either way, I will take care of it. It's fine. So we are proposing projects, of course, based on these are, again, I would like to emphasize, these are proposals. Stakeholders are, of course, welcome to propose own projects, but these are based on on gaps that we see in the implementation so far. So these are the overview of the project. In Family 531, we are proposing an Acadia project, the acceleration of aeronautical digital information availability. I will go further into the detail of this project, but it includes, of course, NM, ANSP, AISPs, and airport operators as the data originators, those who actually give the data to the service provider. Second project is concerning the Airspace Reservation. So in the end, it's linked to the family just explained by Christian and Eva on airspace management, AF3, where we are proposing a project to, first of all, get stakeholders on board the boat of the exchanges of airspace management information with the NM through the availability service and the structure service. But even more importantly is to start closing the gap around the airspace reservation service, the ARIS service. And this is again including NM, ANSPs, and also, well, airports are not really in here. That is a mistake here. So let's remove that when we share the slides. In Family 561, I think Christian mentioned that there are many different stakeholders. We are proposing so far right now a project for the airspace users, because in the end, airspace users are very crucial for this to be implemented, as they are the one filing the flight plans. So we're looking into a different format of a flight plan, a digital flight plan, which will make many changes with a lot of stakeholders. But we need to get the airspace users on board to this so that they can change their systems and provide the new EFPLs. In this, let me say that this is definitely not limited to airspace users. This call, we would be happy to see ANSPs coming with proposal on the implementation of the 561 consumption of the flight plans, the new flight plans and new formats. But for now, this is what we have come up with. If you take the next slide, then I will go more into the details. Pedro came, good. So the first one, the Acadia project here. So this is, again, it's the acceleration of aeronautical digital information. You see in the picture, today we're in a paradigm where we as users, or the users of the aeronautical information, they have a lot of information to take into account, to consider. The picture to the left is what you see today. Pilots have to deal with maps of airports, AIPs, etc. In the end, what will happen is that will be digital data sets, as you see in the black. And some of you might ask, then how do you read that? Well, you don't have to. This is exactly what SWIM will enable. It is an automized process now. We are looking towards automation and a system to system. So we don't need to read it. It's actually your system who needs to view it and then display it in front of you. And then very important is also, of course, the feeding of the data to the EAD, which is the common database in Europe. So this is something that will all be part of this project. And as many of you may know, this family consists of 3 services: aeronautical mapping service, the aeronautical feature, and the digital NOTAM. The plan is to cover the gaps of the stakeholders fully through this project, would be the plan. Do you want to add something? Then take next slide. So project coordinator, we've already come with a proposal, and that NM could be the project coordinator of such a project, because they sit on the competencies and also on the EAD stakeholder. It's full out all European stakeholders, all AISPs, including the third countries also marked in a different colors. And airports is not limited to those we see here, but these are the ones mandated in the regulation through AF1. So we would like to see a project between ANSPs, who are the AISP, the Aeronautical Information Service Provider, and the airports, so that we close the gap and get the data digital now, because this is what CP1 mandates. Next slide. Yeah, milestones. As you know, the new deployment program recently approved requires many milestones on all stakeholders. And these milestones, of course, has to be covered through this project. What is important is that it actually also will cover the requirement that is to be found in 311 of providing and uploading local data to EAD, as I also mentioned. So there are two aspects of this project. Do we take question in the end or after each project, Christian?
Normally we will do it in the end.
Okay, then let's continue. Good. This one, yes. So in CP1, stakeholders are mandated to exchange their airspace structure and their availability. So how are you managing your airspaces? Where are there military activities? So that includes the exchange of the airspace usage plan with the NM through the airspace availability service, but also your structure. So how do they look actually today? What also comes to it, and there's a good uptake on these service implementations. So they're implemented by a network manager, and many have progressed very nicely on these. If we look to the right on this slide, we look in the Airspace Reservation. This is where we change the paradigm. So it's no longer NM providing the services, just as it was not an NM in the Aeronautical Information Services, but it will become the ANSPs who provide services. And here we see that there is a gap we need to cover. And there is a new airspace management specification soon to be finalized who covers also this aspect. So now is the time to start implementing this. That will be, is it not working? It's good? Huh? Good. Maybe I speak too fast. I will slow down then. What is important with this is that there will be a link with the ATC system. And this often gets many to stand up in their chairs because ATC systems are expensive, etc. Nevertheless, it's a requirement that we need to fulfill and that will improve European network performance in the end. So this project will help the implementation of the new ASM specification, fulfilling fully the requirement that goes for airspace availability, airspace structure for those who have not done that yet, but also concerning those who have not yet started or need to start the airspace reservation implementation. And that is concerning the real-time activation of areas and deactivation of areas in the controller working position. Next slide. Again, all stakeholders, we should maybe remove AISPs for this because this is not an AISP role here. It's an ANSP role and an NM as coordinator here. Airports, they have, of course, a role, but they're not crucial for this project either. So this also needs to be updated from the slide. That's my copy-paste error. Apologies. But all stakeholders again, and NM, hopefully, as the coordinator also here. Moving to the next slide. The milestones, there are plenty in the SESAR deployment program who all should be covered by this project. So hopefully this project will help that we in the LC monitoring will see these little by little being fulfilled. And you jump in, Pedro, if you have something to add. Yeah. Okay, next slide so that we can get to the questions. 561, the filing service. So what will change now is that we will change the flight plan format. That means that the airspace users, they will have to start filing something called the EFPL. That will include the performance data, the 4D profile. It will include much, much more information. And in the end, it's an electronic flight plan. So again, how will the pilot read the electronic flight plan? Well, he doesn't have to. It's again the system that we are looking. We're looking to more automized system-to-system exchanges here. This is very important because we need to see the airspace users starting to file these flight plan, and without them filing them, of course, the NSP cannot get the data and use it for the benefit, and neither can NM. What will happen also in this family is that then NM will provide the service. It's already available in the SWIM registry, but they will also share the flight plan as they do today. So you should look at this family as this family will cover where flight plan 2012 is today. The EFPL will be after 2025 if we fulfill the CP1 requirement. So that means that, of course, the ANSPs will have to receive and use the information in a new format also eventually. This project is focusing on the filing part, though, and that will hopefully update the airspace users' flight planning system so that they have the capability and that they start doing that also. And the target date is not a news for anybody, but it's, of course, December 25. Next slide. Yeah, so I think we might be missing a slide. Milestones, I think it's the ones from the SESAR deployment program that will be fulfilled for the airspace users. And as to, especially, I think this is the interesting question with the airspace user, who are the airspace users? So, well, it's all the airspace users that have EU as a base. I don't want to start too many discussions on the geographical scope of airspace users today. If we can avoid that, that is already ongoing. But again, all airspace users. But let's start with as many as we can get into this project. I think that is the last slide. If not, try. Yeah, here's the geographical scope of it. So everybody, including third countries, airspace users, can be welcome to this project. And I think that is for sure my last slide. Try it. Yes.
So I will ask if there are any questions live, and then we investigate for the online. But first we start with the ones that are present in room. So I see no question. I will then ask my colleagues for the online if there are any related to F5. Yes, we have one. So please, Magnus, take the time to read it and please reply. Thank you.
So, Michael, thank you for this question. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for these questions from Lufthansa. And yes, I can ensure that SDM is keen and is monitoring all possible additional benefits out of these projects. And we have already identified that closer cooperation between military and civil, especially regarding this topic which Magnus has just mentioned, this automated reservation of military airspaces, will bring additional benefits. Yes, we do.
The answer is perfect for me. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph. Let's see if there is another question. So we have another question online related to SWIM. Thank you, Pedro.
Yeah, I think just to confirm indeed the assumption, and actually I think it's the basis for the project that we will capture the information in a digital form and make it available through the ED. And then once it's in the ED, the implementation of the service and the further dissemination via the digital NOTAM, the AIFS and airport mapping services that will be implemented by ED will become common to all. So we will have to, we can implement it at one place and it become shareable by all users of the ED. So yeah, confirming the assumption, yes.
Just to add on to that, so Whether it is irrelevant or not, I think is a local decision to be taken. So yes, there will be the option of implementing through the common tool, but there will also still be the option of local implementation of these services.
And we have one in room, please. Two? Okay. Okay. So, Anne-Louise, please, and then the other one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Related to ARES, very interesting. We have a lot of question related what is real time. And also, of course, the safety aspects. If you connect Swim directly to ATM system, is that going to be taken into consideration in this project as well?
Of course. So everything related to what is required from an operational side has to be taken into consideration in the project. So yes, it will.
Yeah.
And real time, do you want to know about real time? So real time.
Some people say it's actually human in the loop because they don't want to connect
Yeah,
directly.
but this
so
is
real time is even if it's a human.
No. So real time is not when there's a human in the loop. So I had the discussion recently. So a human in the loop will delay the process. So let's take so if you activate an airspace in the system, then today they program the systems so that the system are in during the whole day. But what happens with an activation of an area where they quit the activities before time? Then you will have to wait for the human in the loop to actually get the message to do it. No, it has to be real time that when it stops, it's removed. And it's removed from the country where it's in, but also connected to countries in the areas around, so that everybody is informed real time. Now the activity is over. The network is ready. The flight can fly through that area again. So that is real time. Human in the loop? No, that is not what we are working towards. I hope that's clear. As clear as it gets today.
If I may also complement, following your question, and Lovis, and the previous question also about the NN centralized service, for all these SWIM services and requirements, we understand that probably this is the most complex ATM functionality in the regulation, also in the SESAR deployment program. We try to explain it the best way we could to guide the stakeholders in implementing all these services. So that's why you will find a specific dedicated deployment milestones for the different type of stakeholders and also for the different type of services. And I just want to stress that our SDM experts are willing to support you when submitting projects and when discussing internally in your organizations what needs to be done to fulfill the requirements of the regulation. So I encourage you really to contact us if you have doubts, if you don't know how to implement some of these services, what has to be done, etc. Contact our experts, Pedro, Magnus, the rest of the AF5 team. They will be more than happy to support you, to organize bilateral meetings, and hopefully to help you submitting multi-stakeholder projects, because this has to happen now. I mean, it is mandated in the regulation by 2025, so 3 years from today, and we need to start seeing implementation projects. We understand the complexity and the difficulties. We are fully committed, our experts and management team, to really support you organizing bilateral meetings or multiple meetings with different stakeholders if needed. Thank you.
And just, we will be also in the expert corner later to discuss with you. I just want to clarify one thing also before there's another question also, I think, is that I think it's important that we, in the implementation of CP1, we stop thinking of ourselves as individual stakeholders, because it's not an individual implementation only. We need to see that the CP1 is here because an harmonized, synchronized deployment is needed. We need to change things so that we harmonize how we use and implement things. And this is exactly when it comes to real time, rather than having multiple humans in the loop, the system will be optimized and updated, errors, deactivation, activation, automate. I mean, this is what we have to go towards, whether our individual need tells us differently. Well, it's okay for us to have a human sitting, activating the areas, deactivating. That the need at a network level is different. So we need to put these two together and find a way forward for all of us. Just to add on to that one.
Okay, yeah, my question was about the Acadia project that you mentioned. Does it cover the local implementations as well?
So yes, indeed. I think there is, in order to implement this aeronautical information services, there is normally two steps. One is making sure the information is available in a digital form, and then is making available through a SWIM interface. So we will address the two steps. What we are going to offer also is the possibility of, if you wouldn't like to offer the SWIM interface, to use the one of EAD. That could be an option, but you could still say, well, I would like to do not only digitalize my information, but to also to implement my own interface so that my stakeholders can also have access directly from my information. What is also important to say is that through this project, we are also trying to address the requirement that data needs to be provided to EAD, because EAD is still mandated to provide information for the entire regional scope. So even if you would like to offer your own interface, we still need to make sure that the EAD is getting the part which is applicable in that context. But we will try to address all those elements and understand what is that every stakeholder would like to do. Yeah.
Thanks, Pedro. We have another question online that it is displayed on the screens.
Yes, we can confirm that the AISPs should have been removed from that slide. So the intention is not through the AIS processes, for sure. So yeah, we can confirm that.
Thanks. Is there any other question around the room? Because online, no. So we can go to the other one. We can close, I assume, this first call line. Thank you.
In any case, and since we are now closing the CP1 related topics, be aware that very likely we from the SDM will be in contact with most of you to check whether these projects are feasible, whether you are interested on participating and eventually submitting these projects. We will, as I said before, contact the militaries through EDA. This is for the initial coordination from the SDM. We will also contact the ANSPs, airports, airspace users, etc. in the coming days to see whether there is willingness and interest on submitting these projects that we have been addressing and proposing today, or additional projects that are linked to the call and the priorities in the call. Now we are going to present another topic that is addressed in the call. Is not related to the common project one. It is the CNS topic that has been included in this call. So let's move to the next slide, please. Again, I will do a short introduction on the topic itself, and then our CNS experts in the SDM will give you a bit more of details on these three key elements. So for communications, navigation, and surveillance infrastructure, the call has specified that there could be projects eligible to receive funding from CNEA on these three different areas for CNS: performance-based navigation, PBN, surveillance, the SPA regulation addressing ADSB, and data link services on the communications domain. I will give you some details of the requirements to apply to these projects, because I think this is something new. It was not in previous calls, and SDM was not coordinating projects under the CNS domain. We are proposing to coordinate these projects as well. It seems that it is fine for the European Commission, even if it is not the core business of the SDM, as these are not addressing the common project one. But we are proposing to coordinate these projects if, again, you operational stakeholders are interested in submitting projects on any of these areas. For the PBN topic, you know that there is a regulation. Actually, there is a regulation for these 3 topics. The adoption of seeds and stars using PBN specifications. It is also required to equip aircraft with SBAS-capable avionics. And ideally, there should be an optimization or decommissioning of ground navigation infrastructure. For the surveillance domain, the call is allowing also to submit projects addressing new types of ground surveillance, ADSB, wide area multilateration, that were not part of the SPA mandate of the ADSB mandate, but the ANSPs through this call are eligible to submit projects. And also those airspace users that were not part of the mandate are eligible to submit projects to equip avionics with ADSB or equivalent performance for the military and general aviation. Finally, for the data link services, we have the avionics upgrades to resolve interoperability issues. This is really key, as today there are still several interoperability issues related to the avionics. There is an entire group addressing all these topics, the data link supporting group organized by Eurocontrol, EASA, and SDM, where all the airlines, ANSPs, etc., the CSPs are participating there, trying to resolve these problems. So there is a big opportunity here, especially for the airspace users, to submit projects upgrading their avionics to resolve those problems. And the idea of all these CNS projects is to have multi-stakeholders proposals. Like for the CP1, the Commission is really keen to see multiple stakeholders joining forces, submitting projects together, and thus to increase the likelihood of being awarded. Let's go to the next slide, where I will give you some hints of how these projects should be submitted and what are the requirements or the priorities given through the call. As I explained a minute ago, the idea is to have multi-stakeholder projects, so airspace users, ANSPs to gather forces and submit projects together. The airspace users may be diverse, regular airlines, general aviation, etc., and they could include different types of aircraft. It is very important, especially on the ground side, to cover the potential decommissioning and rationalization of the ground infrastructure. This will increase the likelihood of being awarded, so to remove legacy surveillance infrastructure, for example. I would like to address what in principle is not eligible for funding. So obviously those costs incurred beyond the deadline of the regulations for PBN, for ADSB, and also those elements that are addressed in the past deadlines of the SPI regulation or the DLS. This will be further clarified in any case by the Commission, but as I said before, the upgrade of the avionics for DLS are eligible to resolve all those interoperability issues, and my colleague Nikos Fistas will give you more details later on. One important requirement is to address the certification approvals and the safety assessments. So when there is the need to involve the NSAs on the projects, there should be a required specific deployment milestone there within the project, addressing the NSA's involvement. And then finally, the funding opportunities for the airspace users and ANSPs, namely. In this call, all of you, especially airspace users, will have realized already that the funding is going up to 50% of the total costs of the project. This is a big increase compared to past calls where only 20% could be funded. For the CNS part, for the ground CNS infrastructure, 30% can be funded, plus, and here very important to bear this in mind, 10% additional if there is an air-ground project synchronizing the air-ground implementation of these CNS topics, and an additional 10% if the commissioning of ground infrastructure is included in the project. So like this, also the ANSPs could go up to 50% of the costs funded by CNEA. There is also an article or a point in the call addressing the outermost regions, Canary Islands and Azores, which could also apply for up to 70% of the cost, but this is only for these two regions in this case. Again, we encourage larger groups of stakeholders joining forces to submit projects, because this will definitely increase the likelihood of being awarded. So the larger the stakeholders, the groups are, the better airspace users, ANSPs, even airport operators for the surveillance topic, etc. And with this, I will give the floor now to my colleague Cns Topic, who will guide us through the navigation and surveillance topics. Jan, please.
Thank you, Christian. Good morning. Yes, very shortly through the navigation and surveillance priorities. So the navigation priorities and that call point to the PBN regulation in effect since 2018. Most of you are probably familiar with it. The PBN regulation centers around the airspace user requirement number 2005, which is the key cornerstone of this opportunity, and it's the box on the left there. So the priorities are calling for the implementation of the RNP approach with the 3 lines of minima. Of course, consider the caveats which are expressed in the regulation. The implementation of PBN terminal routes, primarily RNAV1 or RNP1 as required. This is, in fact, I believe it's expressed in the call that the focus should be primarily on the TMA airspace redesign. Also, implementation projects supporting the implementation of RNAV5 ATS routes outside of the TMAs, and where applicable, ATS and terminal routes for the helicopters, for rotorcraft. It is important to, in terms of the TMA redesign, focus on native or integral PBN routes, meaning those designed according primarily to the preferred user trajectories, as opposed to overlays of conventional navigation. And you should aim to show an improvement towards some of the improvement KPIs which are being followed. Primarily, I think in the context of airports, the noise will be a predominant benefit area. This is on the ANSPs. This segment of the call is also open to airspace users, and will come to submit applications towards fitment of SPAS. As Christian mentioned before, it is also welcome to reflect in a potential decommissioning or rationalization of conventional navigation, although that will not be eligible for funding except for that extra 10% which you might get as a NSP towards your funding ceiling. You should include it as a separate milestone, and the same goes for any NSA approval which may be required, both on the airborne and the ground side. That's the nav part. Next slide, please. And for the surveillance part, the priority points at the SPI-IR regulation, which, again, the last amendment is in effect since 2020. The focus here is on primarily ADS-B-capable sensors, even better if it enables the decommissioning of older MSSRs, primarily the mode AC, Alpha Charlie. Decommissioning of such radars will again not be eligible for funding as such. The costs incurred with it you'll have to cover yourself, but you get an extra 10% in the funding ceiling if you include it as a milestone. This is for the ANSPs. So the Commission is here aiming to promote the modernization of the infrastructure towards more ADS-B capable sensors. I'm not saying necessarily ADS-B alone, but the sensor needs to be ADS-B capable in order to be eligible. And for the airspace users, fitment of ADS-B out avionics or equivalent performance under the very important exemption that you must not be covered by SPIR, meaning that the primary benefactors of this, beneficiaries of this segment would be general aviation and military aircraft. And when I say general aviation, of course, I mean what is exactly carved out from the SPI-IR. So operations under the 5.7 tons maximum takeoff weight and maximum cruise speed below 250 knots. So if you meet these criteria, you are eligible. And yeah, as probably those who are familiar with the general aviation domain, you know that there had been similar rebates or similar funding allocated in the past in the United States and in the United Kingdom. This is the first time Europe also is making a move in that direction to sponsor or to co-sponsor fitment of ADS-B avionics in general aviation. So in my opinion, this is very interesting, and I encourage all stakeholders to pay close attention and get in touch with us in case of any interest. I believe that is all on me, so thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Jan. We will keep the questions and answers for all the CNS at the end of the presentation. Nikos Fistas, our DLS expert, is going to guide us now through the communications domain. So please, Nikos, the floor is yours.
So hello, everybody. So in terms of data link, this is the third element of the CNS topic. And I want just to highlight that data link remains one of the key tools that the aviation has today to introduce the new concepts. So it is really important that data link works well. So effectively what this call is addressing updates of equipment, of existing equipment. So it is not new equipment. It is for operators only that they have already equipped to be compliant with the data link implementing rule, and the equipment was not working satisfactorily. Why this call is very important is that why these avionics that they're not performing well affect the overall data link performance, so they affect the performance for all the users, but also for the particular operators, they provide a negative experience because the system is not working, and this is eroding the trust of the community on the data link. In addition, this airspace is also potentially excluded from CBDLC operations from a number of states and a number of NSPs that they operate the logon list. So in terms of eligibility, there is a list that I will go on the next slide, but in summary, we're having a number of issues that have been identified as critical. The VDR deafness issue is an important issue that is affecting some Collins and Honeywell radio. There is an ENASA SIB already for the Collins radio, and there is more in preparation for the Honeywell radio. I mentioned the list of the deployment actions, and I will cover that a bit more in detail later. We're having at the moment 15 deployment actions that they identify specific invitations for the operators to upgrade with available solutions. And this list is going to be revised in the October meeting of the DSG, and potentially new elements also will be included that will also be eligible. Also, upgrades that will help to remove the restrictions for flying on the logon list area are also eligible. What is important is that these applications need to substantiate the interoperability with the other two main users on the chain of the data link, and this is the NSP on the ground and the CSPs on the network. And what is really important, and it was highlighted many times, I think, by Christian, is that we're really looking for coordinated multi-party proposals in this call. The last slide on the data link, which is the next slide, is actually identifying some of the keywords that we're having in terms of equipment that is available. You're having equipment, aircraft that they are from Airbus, Boeing, and Embraer, and also other aircraft that they're having integrated equipment. We're having the Collins and the Honeywell radio. Then we're having on the router CMU, we're having Honeywell, Collins, and also some of the Airbus products. And then specifically, we're having the Spectralus D-Link equipment, the Universal Unilink, and the Honeywell Epic. What we have done already as an EME is that we have reached actually to the industry, and we have tried to set up meetings, and we're inviting industry to contact the operators to highlight this for this opportunity. Also, we have reached to YERC and other fora to try to get direct access to the operators. One of the difficulties we're having is that we don't know which operators are really operating today with this equipment. So this is really an important call for all the operators to look at this list, to look at the possibilities that they may have equipment that may be eligible and reach out to us. When you get the slides, there is also some backup slides that provide more information, but also when you click on the figure that you see on the site, you will go to the Eurocontrol link that you will get the full list of the 15 deployment actions. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Nico. So Q&A session now for all the CNS topics and potential projects. Are there any here around the table? I see none. Is there any question online? No? Okay.
Neither online.
Okay, so I think that we are closing now the... Is there a question?
No questions, but we reached the end on the...
Yes, right. So I would like to remind you that we have set this small expert corner outside where we were having coffee before. You will see that there are some chairs, red chairs around table in the corner, just at the entrance of the lobby on the right side. Our experts from AF1 to AF5 and CNS will stay around in case you have questions, you want to exchange more informally with them, please feel free. Also during the lunch break, again, it is at the entrance of the lobby on the right side. There is a big white table there. Our experts will try to hang around, AF1 to AF5, also CNS, and some of us also will be around. So feel free to come to us and ask questions or exchange your concerns or your views on the potential projects, etc. We will be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
But before we go for the break, it is another clarification that we need to make from Renault's side.
Yeah, thanks. Simply to build on the last topic on the other project. So for sure, the applications, CP1 and the other project are going to be different applications. And we may even have one application per other projects because we can put projects together only that fit together. For the CP1 part, our plan is to do like was done in the past, so to have one application for all CP1 projects. But we are keeping our option open. So if on the way we realize that it's not the best way forward, we are flexible to adapt. Of course, we will inform you on the way, and we will endeavor to make it as seamless as possible for you. But again, as I said, our plan today is to have one application for all CP1 projects.
Thank you, Renaud. Just to mention everyone that we have anticipated now a bit with 10 minutes, with 20 minutes, in fact, the lunch break, because it was foreseen for 13 hours, but it seems that my colleagues were clear enough for every of you, including the ones online. I see that we have a question in the room, so please.
Thank you. It was just that last precision that you said, one application. What do you mean by application?
It's going to be one action. So what we had in the past, when we had a call for CP1 implementation, it was one action and with several project-related, CP1-related project in the action. So the plan today is to do the same, one action, and one application equals one action.
Thank you. I will ask my colleagues if there are any questions online, since I see that we moved from... Okay, so it is a question online indeed. What is the expected duration of the global grant? At the end of 2027.
Say it.
So it's according to CP1 deadline regulation, end of 2027. Should be, no? Yeah. Another one we have? Or? Okay, so in case no other questions, as I mentioned, we will take now the lunch break in advance with 20 minutes, and we will reconvene at 14:15. Also for the people online, thank you very much for bearing with us for this long lunch break, and we are expecting you back at 14:15 in the room and also online. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's time to resume the meeting. We are now gathering the one in the room, and I hope that the ones online are already comfortable seated after this long break. I hope that you enjoyed the lunch and you had also some time to work in between. And now we will reconvene for the second part of our meeting, and still we have a pending question that was included in the chat when we have closed the last topic. So I would recommend for us to tackle this question that it was inserted, as I said, just before we left for lunch. And my colleague Christian, he will take care of replying to this question. Thank you, Christian.
Okay. Thank you, Madalina. I see that the question is related to the CNS presentation that we did before together with Jan and with Nikos. But I think that I can extrapolate it to all the projects in general, also those related to the CP1. The projects are called implementation projects. So in the end, something has to be deployed, something tangible. In the past, the European Commission has asked about this in particular, what is being deployed, what are the upgrades on the systems, so that they can see also the benefits. And therefore, the projects can include elements like studies, simulations, safety assessments, etc. But in the end, something has to be deployed as part of the project, something tangible. Therefore, and I think that with this I answer to this question, the costs related to the optimization studies are eligible as long as they are part of a project that in the end is implementing something or decommissioning old infrastructure, etc. If the project is only about an optimization study, I'm afraid that it will not be awarded. But please feel free to complement.
Yeah, if I may, I believe that we will still need to further investigate this with CNEA, and we will provide also in written answer. Please, Renaud.
We'll see, because if we look at the call, it's specified, it's about works, and when it's about studies, it's mentioned in the call. So here, the answers provided by Christian is the right one. So it is about works. So if to do the work, there needs to be a study attached to it, okay, but it's about works, so implementation projects.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions related to the previous session, we will just start our afternoon part with the performance aspects that my colleague Ralph will lead us through. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madalina, and good afternoon all together. Here we have only prepared one page. Nevertheless, it is a very important page with a very important content. And we're speaking about the performance aspects, meaning at the end, when you submit projects, we expect that you provide to SDM following information. Mandatory for sure are the detailed costs, but which is mandatory as well are qualitative benefits. Qualitative benefits, you can make them short on one page, but it will be interesting for us to hear and to see what you have in mind about benefit mechanism out of this project. Touching the key performance areas, which are capacity, flight efficiency, environmental, cost efficiency, safety, and we can perhaps add as well security, meaning everything which is related to swim. If possible, the key performance indicators like ATFM delay, ASMA times, saving of nautical miles, everything you have in mind which could generate such benefits will be helpful for us. And only if possible, it will be great if you can estimate quantitative benefits, meaning kilo of tons in CO2 and fuel, or saved minutes. Based on your information, we will support and produce arguments feeding the award criteria of the CEF call. In case there are Excel files necessary, don't be afraid, we will do this. And the award criteria of the CEF calls are priority and urgency, maturity, quality, and now comes the two which are relevant for performance. One is the impact, meaning the impact on environment, for instance. The other one is the catalytic effect, which is a new one, which is focusing on topics which are speeding up implementation of projects. So this is only one page from my side and from my team, but it is relevant, it is important, and be ensured that we will help and support you. And so if you have questions how to do this, please forward your questions with a common email address we will send later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. I will ask if any questions around the persons in the room, because I see that from online we have no questions related to performance. So asking again if any questions in the room, and I see one. Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to ask, you mentioned costs, performance assessments, or performance qualitative and quantitative. Is it clear the need to develop or to provide a CBA for the projects?
Up to now, our latest information is that a CBA is not required. Nevertheless, doing the business here for all the projects which are awarded, we need to have numbers, and therefore it is necessary that we have, let's say, a first estimation from the project managers, what could be the impact. But in any case you have questions, just contact us and we will support and help you to do this.
Thank you. I see no other hand raised, so I believe that we can go to the next topic on our agenda, which is also very important to you because it's related to the preparation of the proposal. And the mic. Oh, sorry, Renaud.
Sorry, I apologize, I keep talking. Just to come back on the question, what we are going to do anyway is to put a formal question to CNIA, because it's not required from us, that in the call it's not stated. So we want a formal answer that there will be no issue at the evaluation level. Huh?
Thank you. Then I will give now the floor to my colleague Gaia in order to start presenting the next agenda item. Thank you.
Thanks, Madalena, and good afternoon, everybody. So now we will talk about the logistic part of how to structure when and how the proposal. So the SDM will act as coordinator. We already involved some potential applicants, already started some discussions. We will coordinate and assist and advise applicants on how to produce a sound implementation project proposal. So just to be sure that all call requirements are meet. We will collect all implementation project proposals and we will consolidate them. The approach is to have one application, so one action, but of course during the proposal preparation phase, we will see how to manage this. And we will submit firstly to you, then to the member state for their endorsement, and then we will be the responsible for the official submission through the e-grants to CNEA. The deadline set by CNEA, it's the 18th of January, but just to ensure that there are no technical issue on the grants, we plan to submit the proposal one day earlier, so on the 17th of January. So now we'll pass the floor to my colleague Caterina, who will guide you through the structure of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaia. So I will guide you right now through the proposal structure. As you can see on the image, the 2022 CEF2 transport call is including two parts. It's part A, including the administrative and the financial part B, which is technical, and also supporting documents. I would like to highlight here that SDM, acting as a coordinator, is responsible not only for drafting and finalizing the full batch of the documentation, which is part A, part B, and the supporting documents, but also uploading this batch of documentation to the e-grants, which was mentioned in Maria Grazia presentation in the morning. We believe that this is more simple and friendly process than in the last year. Of course, we need to be aligned with the CNEA requirements, and the information which the coordinator will upload to the system, it's on the basis of information which will be provided by you, by the future applicants. The information will be based on a technical, financial, and administrative base. Very important thing is that the proposal will be submitted electronically via the e-grant, which named is the EU Funding and Tender Portal Submission System. And it's again SDM who is the only one who is responsible for official submission of the consolidated proposal approved by the member states. Next slide, please. I will now be concentrating on the part A. The part A includes the administrative information about the participants and also the summarized budget for the project. It needs to be highlighted that all the information are generated by the system and will be inserted by us, by the SDM to the submission system. Very important for all the applicants is that it's mandatory to be registered and to receive the validation from the eGrants portal. You could be asked to provide additional relevant documentation. Please be aware that there is online manual. The link is available on the presentation, where is explained step by step how to go through this registration, which will allow us to create a consolidated proposal at action level. Please don't hesitate to contact us in case you will have a question or you will need a support. Next slide, please. I will be now explaining the supporting documentation, which will be part of the proposal. The first three, which is detailed budget, table per the work package, timetable or the Gantt chart, and the environmental compliance are elaborated by the SDM. Of course, this will be elaborated at action level, but based on the information which you will be providing, like applicants will be providing through the IP proposal. Very important thing is that the IP proposal will be using the STAR tool, which is the main tool to interact with SDM. My colleague Ramon will tell you in the upcoming slide more about this tool. Another document, very important, is the letter of support. I would like to highlight here that this needs to be approved by the member states, proving that the applicant's participation to prove the applicant's participation, and I would like to strongly invite all applicants to liaise on time with the relevant member states representative in order to allow a smooth process and timely signature from the member states. The other two documents, which is authorization to act on behalf of the applicant, together with the grounds for exclusion, will need the applicant's signature, which means that the template will be provided already by the SDM. And I would like to note here that we are still discussing with the Commission if the grounds for exclusion will be needed. As already mentioned in the morning presentation, this presentation, together with the question and answers and all the supporting documents, will be provided to all of you in the batch in the end, in the upcoming days, most probably at the beginning of the next week. The last but not least, the activity report and the list of previous projects are not requested from the beneficiary of CEF1, member states, international organization, and public bodies. Next slide, please. Now I will go through the part B. As already mentioned, part B includes the technical description of the project together with the planned activities, work packages, milestones, deliverables, and costs. All participants will contribute to this part through the provision of your IP proposal in STAR, as already mentioned. But again, I would like to highlight that it's up to the coordinator who must finalize and submit the application at action level. The part B can include as well annexes and supporting documents if required. And the coordinator is also responsible all the parts A, B, supporting documents on the portal at action level. In the end of my presentation, I would like to strongly invite all the applicants to follow the SINEA and SDM recommendation and comply with the deadline. Now I will give the floor to Ramon. Thank you.
Thank you, Caterina, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ramon Raposo. I am the Monitoring and Execution Coordinator at the SDM. And I wanted to start with the fact that in the early morning presentation, in our Executive Director introduction, there were the words, SDM is here to support you from planning to execution. Well, having coordinated more than 90 implementing partners and 340 projects and 4 actions already closed, we have a few tips that we want to share with all of you for a smooth process from the submission through the awarding, the execution, and finally the closure. So you have received today a lot of valuable information, and let's go to the hypothetical case that myself being a project leader, now I have a good idea of the scope of the project that I want to present, the costs, who will be my project partners. So what do I do now? Okay, so I go to STAR. STAR will be the main tool for interaction, for coordination, for monitoring, and for the synchronization of the funded projects. Now for the submission and then after the awarding. After 4 call for proposals, hopefully STAR is a fairly familiar tool for everyone. But no matter if you are very proficient or if you are new to STAR, we'll be here to support. You can find in the slide, which is the link to connect to the tool, and which is the email address to ask for access, but even more to ask for support. And then everyone else also in the SDM will be here to help. In the next slide, I'm coming back to the hypothetical situation that, I am this project leader and now with access to STAR. In the next slide, please. here are a few tips and suggestions that would be great to be followed in order to ensure this smooth process, hopefully when my project gets awarded. So in terms of describing the proposal, it would be great to have the following elements, which is the overview of the main activities, which are the specific objectives, which should be measurable and clearly understandable, the expected results in line with the SESAR deployment program deployment milestones, the deployment milestones that were presented in the morning in the projects described, the deployment milestones to be achieved. The expected performance benefits in line with Ralph's words a few minutes ago, both qualitative and quantitative, if possible, and the interdependencies with other projects coordinated by the SDM, projects from your organizations that are related, either preceding or succeeding. So this in terms of the project proposal. The proposal must target at least one gap. A gap is a combination of a SESAR deployment program family, so a technical element, and a geographical scope, as described by the regulation. How do you target a gap? This is by covering the deployment milestones presented by our experts in the morning. So the first step you need to do is to select which is the gap that you need to close, which are the stakeholders that are involved in this gap, and which are the services if it's an AF5 project. Then the applicable deployment milestones will be provided by the SDM to you. So there are deployment milestones in the SESAR deployment program that will come live to your project once you have selected the family. And then what you will have to do is to correlate these deployment milestones to the tasks which compose your project, indicating also how much you are expecting to cover them. If you are planning to deploy or implement the full deployment milestone, if you are expecting to do just part of it. And finally, the tasks. The project structure, the proposal should be composed of tasks. Our recommendation is to have task 1 as project management, including, if possible, one final deliverable that will be the means of verifying the project completion. In principle, we see no need for deliverables, milestones, or correlated to several SDP gaps. So we prefer to have independence between the gaps and the tasks. This, you might be wondering why. This is because once the project gets awarded, then the projects need to comply with the CP1 regulatory target deadlines. And if there are several different gaps with several different deadlines, then things become complicated with regards to CNEA. The deployment milestones need to be connected to the tasks. If you need additional granularity to the deployment milestones in order to introduce more elements in your projects, we suggest using the checkpoints, which are in the LSIP tool. And then you can include, let's say, additional project milestones. Finally, we also suggest, because CNEA will ask for it, which are the risks, the project risks. We can also support you in identifying risks which have been of application for projects similar to the ones you are submitting, and also together help with the suitable mitigation actions. And this brings to the end of my short presentation. And in the next slide, you will see that the next presenter will be Gaia. Gaia?
Thank you, Ramon. Yes, again, me. So now we will go through the main steps and deadlines that will ensure the timely and successful submission of the proposals. So the preparation of the proposal starts when CNEA publishes the call. So it happened on the 13th of September. Today we organized this launch event, but we strongly encourage you to register and follow also the CNEA Info Day that will take place on the 5th of October, because CNEA will present the main and relevant information related to the overall proposal preparation phase. From today until the 21st of October, you will be able to submit your EP proposal to us through the STAR tool. After that day, so the 21st of October, we may not be able to include your proposal into the action. So we strongly invite you to comply with this deadline. Then SDM expert will assess all the EP proposals received and will provide you with technical and financial comments, ad hoc comments through STAR tool related to your IP proposal. On the same day, we kindly request you to provide the administrative documents as explained by Caterina. We are talking about the authorization, if needed, the ground for exclusion, and if needed, the activity reports. From the 4th of November until the 16th of November, you are kindly requested to improve your EP proposal and to update them through STAR tool according to the SDM comments. Of course, if you need any support, please do not hesitate to contact the experts, STAR support, us, or the CEF account mailbox that has been created to support you. And it's the 2022 CEF call functional mailbox. Then from the 16th of November until the end of November, SDM will consolidate the EP proposal, will elaborate the documents at action level, and will provide the full batch to you by the 1st of December to request your approval or comments, if any, by the 7th of December. Once collect the approval and comments, we will provide to the member states the full batch to have their comments until 17th of December, and then the required member state letter of support by the 10th of January. We will then have a few days to finalize everything, upload everything into the e-grants tool, and then submit, as already said, by the 17th of December. As you may see, it's a very, very challenging timeline, but we are here to support you throughout the whole process. I finished with the slide, so I will pass the floor to for the Q&A. Yes.
So I understood that we have already a question in the online chat. So we wait to see what it. Okay, it is displayed. So I believe that this will be answered by Maria Grazia.
Yes, so there is nothing about the demonstrators because indeed we are not coordinating that. That part is more on the research and innovation side. So we are focusing on the deployment part, CP1 and non-CP1. So indeed, this is not for us.
Thank you. I don't know if there are further questions, live questions. Yes, please, Bart.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, but mainly just for a double check. You mentioned that you need to be registered in the EU portal. We are already registered because we are having a couple of demonstration projects ongoing. Is it in that case sufficient that we, as applicant, just deliver to you our PIC number? I think that's probably the easiest when you need to fill in all the details because every registrant has its PIC number. That's question one. And then question two on the state approval or the letter for state approval. Is it the same as the state certification that you mentioned in that will need to take place in January? And I assume that there is only one state approval necessary for per state. So, well, SDM, I think it's Belgium, same as Sky. So we probably have the same contact person there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So for the PIC, yes, because when filling the part A, to include all participants of all projects, we need to list all applicants. So with the PIC number, it's easier to find you on the portal. For the member state certification, yes, the member state letter of support is indeed that one. It's their endorsement to the proposal, and it needs to be provided per each applicant. So if from the member state for Belgium, for example, member state, we need yours, and if there are other Belgian applicants, we need one per each.
Please, another question.
Thank you. I have seen that the information has to be uploaded to the Sigma tool, but later on has to be moved to the portal of funding and tenders, the part A, part B, and so on. I don't see any point into the schedule about when the applicants can see the final part B, what encompass the information from all the parties.
Okay, so according to the roadmap, we will share the full batch with all applicants to get their approval on the 1st of December. So this includes the part B.
And will be also finally in the part B format.
Yes, yes, you will get it, yes.
By the 1st of December?
1st of December, yes. And then, you, of course, when we fill the part A with all applicants, you will have the access to e-grants with no edit permission, but you will have it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Regarding environmental permission or approval, if I understand well, should we arrange it particularly for each participant, or it will be arranged through the SESAR development?
Yes, the environmental compliance file, it's only at action level, so it will be elaborated by us, of course, taking into consideration what you write in the EP proposal.
Is there any other question? Please, Bart.
Sorry, I forgot one. The mandate that we have to provide as applicant to the SDIP, I think it is, do we need to sign a new one, or can we use the one that we signed earlier this year? No.
No, unfortunately, it's a new one.
Another one, please.
Will the STAR platform will be used, or will it be another platform?
Yes, the ERP proposal should be submitted through STAR tool.
Okay.
As the old ones. It's the same process.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands raised. No question. Okay, okay, Anne-Louise, please. Sorry.
Just, I'm sure that we have different routines in process to interact with our member state. So it's nothing that contradicts that we continue to have our own report to our member state, even though it's you who have the final dialogue with them, correct? We should continue to have our normal dialogue with them as we usually have.
Yes, for sure. We will contact them, but of course we encourage you to liaise with them because you may have a sort of a strict relation with them, so it's easier.
Yeah, just to complement, when we said this morning that we will be proactive also in chasing you to meet the deadlines. Right.
Okay, I see no other hands raised, no other question in the chat, so we can go to the next slide. And as Renaud just raised it to my end, we will chase you through the communication tools. So this for sure. And I will just very briefly mention to you the supporting tools and communication actions that we will follow throughout the entire proposal phase in order for you to timely reach the deadlines. And I will ask my colleague Cliff Van Krijn, that is the communication manager, if it is the case to complement with something for him to complement me, because he's the one dealing every day with the communications. So if we can go for the next slide, please. As you saw earlier in the slides that were presented by Gaia, we will have to follow a specific roadmap for the call preparation phase with dedicated milestones and actions pertaining both to SDM but also to the applicants. And here in communication, we will make sure that you are very much aware of the specific milestones. If we go to the next one, please. And our role in communication, as I said, is to make sure that you are always timely and extensively informed on the next steps, that all the information needed are pushed to all the involved parties, so no one miss anything crucial for the successful application of your project. Next one, please. How this will be done specifically towards all involved applicants, project partners, it will be done through bi-weekly to-do lists, like emails, information that will be sent to you, providing all the key information that will follow in the upcoming period, and of course reminding on the milestones that are foreseen in the roadmap. Of course, that we will also send to you specific reminders before each upcoming milestone for you to be aware, and we will also provide all the associated information to the respective milestone. Next one, please. Smart paper, we are referring here to the email that will be provided following this meeting. But as we have received, we are planning to send a complete folder with the roadmap, with the answers of all the questions that were raised, and also with the recording of today's meeting. But the request was from many of you to already receive the presentation of today's meeting as soon as possible, in order for you to use it already internally. So we will make sure that latest tomorrow morning you will have this presentation at hand. For the rest, for all the Q&A recording of today, please bear us a few days in order for us to be able to send to you. In parallel to the information that we will send directly to you, we are referring also to the information that we will make sure that you will have at hand related to the SESAR deployment documentation or any other dedicated platforms. And one of these platforms is the SDM partner area, that it is directly accessible to you from our SDM website, being open to all the SDM stakeholders, and where you can find specific information on SESAR deployment and specifically related to this call. In case you do not have access to the partner area, just request access pressing the button you have on the site, request access, and follow the instructions that you will receive over the email. Then the second platform is, of course, the SDM website, and we advise the ones that are not acquainted with our SDM website to visit it, because there you can find the latest updates, facts and figures on deployment, information related to the upcoming events, relevant documentations like the SESAR deployment program and its supporting material, overview of all the projects and the implementing partners involved. So please just give a look and send us any questions you may have in relation to the information you find there. Interactive support, it will be provided to all applicants throughout the call preparation, as already stated several times during this meeting by my colleagues. We will be here to support. We will organize bilateral meetings in order for you to have everything clear and to follow the process in a very consequent manner. We have created for this a dedicated mailbox where we really suggest for you to send all the requests that you may have in relation to the CEF2 transport call. Please put all the questions that you may have there, and be sure that our experts will visit very often this email address, and we will reply to your questions as fast as possible.
Not 24/7.
This for sure. Or at least from for the next period, not 24/7, but at least 12 from 24. So related to the events, today is one of the events that we are organizing, informing you on the call. But of course, once your project will be awarded by CNEA, we will have dedicated events for the action or actions, like for example the action kickoff meeting, the annual meeting, dedicated workshops, and bilateral meetings whenever it will be needed. So we are always keeping you involved. And we are doing our utmost, of course, to provide the ones involved with the needed information for a successful submission of your project proposal. So, as my colleague Renaud mentioned, we will be there on your email box very often, or on your. We will be in touch with you very often in order for us to receive the information, and for you on your turn to ask any questions you may have and to receive the answers from our experts. Thank you. If you have any questions. Thank you. Then we have a question. We have a question? Oh, sorry, please.
I have a question on the technical proposal. I was wondering how will the different families or subfamilies will be used? Because sometimes a project might match to different categories. How will we do that?
Yes, as you have seen throughout our presentations, we have tried to structure the projects independently, except the case of AF2, AF4. But it is true what you say, that sometimes there can be projects that are touching two different families. Could be the case with swim, and again with AF2, AF3, with the free route space implementation. In that case, the project will be a single project, and we will have to make the link with two or more families, identifying clearly which are the deployment milestones associated to each family. One single project can be linked to multiple families, but we need to identify very clearly what is this link, because in the future, my colleague Ramon will have to monitor the implementation of those projects, and we will need to use the tool. And our key component or element to monitor the implementation is the deployment milestones. So this connection between the families and the projects has to be crystal clear.
Let me also complement on something, because you saw the projects are our proposals, of course, are very streamlined, but then it depends from what you have in your investment plan and how it is articulated, the implementation. However, a suggestion from our side, but it's also in the text call, is to fill as much as possible the gap for each of the family. So my suggestion is that if you have a project that is covering more families, at least to completely implement the gaps of the two families, not just pieces of the two families. This is a suggestion from our side, strongly also recommended within the text of the call. So,
yeah, I understand. The problem is exactly the example that was given. A swim project is also operational for either for NOP usage or for ASM or FRA. So these are different ATM functional blocks, and that was my dilemma: how to spread it.
good question, and this is where our team will support you to identify where to best put the project and put in a way that can be really clearly monitored also afterwards. So this is the team will help you on that.
And don't be afraid of making a proposal to us. You saw the roadmap, so there will be iterations with our experts. Make your proposal the best way you can identify it. We will help you also analyzing the SESAR deployment program, the families, the call, your proposal, and we will advise you, okay, let's link this deployment milestone with this family, let's split this one into 2 deployment milestones. There will be iterations among us.
If I may comment on this answer also, what you can do in the proposal when you first elaborate it is to indicate which are the gaps that you are planning to cover. Let's say, I don't know, Spain. In Spain, you plan to deploy family, I don't know, 311, so airspace management and advanced flexible use of airspace, together with some other family in AF5. So I plan to deploy in these, I don't know, 2-3 gaps, as many as you want. Once you do that, we will provide to you the deployment milestones that were shown this morning. And there you can make use of those deployment milestones to put them in or to assign them to the different tasks of your project. This will be the way to allocate different SDP families to different tasks. And then the support that was already offered will come into play. But I will start from there, from indicating which are the gaps that you are planning to cover.
Another 2 questions in the room, please.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One is related to the budget. The call has been fully open. There is no indication of size of projects. Do you have some indications and recommendation about the size of the project to be included into the call? And my second question is related with the families or the proposals. Do you foresee to put into the portal just one proposal covering all the families or one proposal per family? Because at the end, in the part B of the proposal, you can write a maximum of 120 pages, and it's difficult to summarize all the work to be done in all the families in just one proposal. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Regarding the amount, so there is a requirement, which is not a requirement, it's an indication from CNEA, that the project should not be below 1 million. But for sure, for them, the bigger, the better. There's no doubt about that. The second question relates to a clarification I provided this morning. Our approach today is to go with one proposal for all the projects. That's the approach. That's the approach we have followed in the past. And as we said this morning, but we are open to reconsider it. So it will depend also on the project we received and if they fit together. Right? So,
I have mentioned that there is a maximum of 120 pages. And for me, this is not enough for detailing with the level of excellence that requires the call, all the activities to be done.
Fully agreed.
Yeah, I just have a question is also in relation to something that is included in the call documentation. The start time of eligibility of cost, will it be the signing of the grant agreement or retroactively the date when the project will be proposed?
Yeah, so it's the date of submission of a proposal.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please.
If I may, I think that the cost eligibles from the moment the grant agreement is signed off. To be received money for activities performed in advance is only has to be agreed by the Commission, and in exceptional cases.
Yes, correct. If justified, the eligibility cost, so also the action can start from the date of submission. Our rationale will be that the CP1 deadlines are very upcoming, so we need to start as soon as possible. Of course, we will submit like this. Then it's of course up to CNEA to agree or not.
Thanks. Any other questions? Online we don't have. In the meeting room we don't have. Oh, we have. Please, one more. Yes.
Just with regards to this single proposal submission, does this mean that if awarded, there will be only one grant agreement? And if so, how will this be managed?
This approach is in line with all our actions still ongoing, and it will be up to us to coordinate and ensure the monitoring, both technical and financial, for the payments to be all together.
Thank you. There are any other questions? No. So if not, I believe that we are fast heading towards the end of our meeting today, because we are now dealing with the very last topic on the agenda, from CNA evaluation to execution phase, and my colleague Gaia will just provide you the updates. Thank you.
I promise it's my last slide. So just for you, some information on the next steps, of course, if the evaluation will be positive. So once the proposals are submitted to CNEA, the CNEA evaluation process starts, and based on the equal treatment principle, only CNEA and the EC will be involved in this at this stage. According to what is reported on CNEA website, the selection should be out by June 2023. Then, of course, if awarded, the SGA preparation phase will start. Then we will support you in aligning technical and financial content of the proposal in line with CNEA provision and results. You might be requested to provide additional administrative and contractual documents. And then once the SGA is signed, the project execution phase can officially start. Of course, until the end of the proposal, SDM will be the coordinator, so will assist you throughout the process. Thank you. Now I leave the floor for any Q&A. I don't think.
We have any online questions? No online questions. Is there any question in the meeting room? Very clear, Gaia. Thank you. I see that it may be something from the chat. So no further questions. Then we just go for the closing notes that will be provided to us by our Executive Director, Maria Grazia. Thank you.
Thank you, Madalina. And are you tired to listen to us? Because it was a long day, yeah? But I hope it was interesting. So I would like to thank you here in the room, all of you here in the room, and the ones that are connecting from online, for your attention. So as it has been said several times today, this is just the start of the process to guide you in the next steps for the preparation of the projects. You have seen some examples, but are just examples. Something more, I'm sure, will come, and we have already been contacted from some stakeholders that like the projects that we put on the table and would like to be part of them. So you see, something is already moving. So we will follow up with a number of bilaterals. Don't forget that we are really here for you. So with regard to the call, well, don't be afraid of the competition setup of this call. I believe it is extremely important for aviation that we can show up with force in this call, because we need to demonstrate that we are part of the solution with regards to the priorities that Europe has, and of course that are also detailed within the call itself. That is an infrastructure that is sustainable, smart, interoperable, inclusive, resilient, safe, and secure. And aviation has a lot to give on these priorities. Also, we need to demonstrate that we are able to contribute to the realization of a robust and resource-efficient European transport. So we don't have to miss the opportunity that we have. Otherwise, the risk that I see is that we can weaken the importance of aviation. And we don't have to do it because we are really part of the solution. Aviation in general, ATM in particular. Of course, the SDM role will be important in this equation. We will continue to help you, to guide you, because the target is not just to have implementation. The target is to have a synchronized implementation of an European regulation, because it's just with a synchronized implementation that we can have the performances that all of us are expecting from those investments. So that is my plea to you today. So, and that's why we have put a lot of focus on multi-stakeholder projects in our initial proposal. So try to send your inputs as soon as possible, because you have seen that the deadlines, unfortunately, the timeline is quite tight, but I'm sure that together we can make it happen. So before I close, also, we have received an information from the European Commission on how the decommissioning costs can be declared as restructuring costs under the performance scheme. And next week, we will provide more information on this after a coordination we will have with the European Commission and the PRB as well. So my closure is let's work together and demonstrate that aviation has a lot to give and that funding support is needed to accelerate implementation, the good one, the good implementation. So thank you again for being here today, and I hope to hear from you all very soon. Thank you.